Sleeping car. The sleeping car or sleeper, often wagon-lit, is a railway passenger car that can accommodate all passengers in beds of one kind or another, primarily for the purpose of making nighttime travel more comfortable. George Pullman was the American innovator of the sleeper car. The first such cars saw sporadic use on American and English railroads in the 1830s. They could be configured for coach seating during the day. Some of the more luxurious early and modern sleepers have private rooms, fully and solidly enclosed rooms that are not shared with strangers. History. Possibly the earliest example of a sleeping car or bed carriage, as it was then called, was on the London and Birmingham and Grand Junction railways between London and Lancashire, England. The bed carriage was first made available to first-class passengers in 1838. In the spring of 1839, the Cumberland Valley Railroad pioneered sleeping car service in America with a car named Chambersburg. A couple of years later, a second car, the Carlisle, was introduced into service. In 1857, the Wasson Manufacturing Company of Springfield, Massachusetts, one of the United States' first makers of railway passenger coach equipment, produced America's first specifically designed sleeping car. The man who ultimately made the sleeping car business profitable in the United States was George Pullman, who began by building a luxurious sleeping car named Pioneer in 1865. The Pullman Company, founded as the Pullman Palace Car Company in 1867, owned and operated most sleeping cars in the United States until the mid-20th century, attaching them to passenger trains run by the various railroads. There were also some sleeping cars that were operated by Pullman but owned by the railroad running a given train. During the peak years of American passenger railroading, several all-Pullman trains existed, including the 20th Century Limited on the New York Central Railroad, Broadway Limited on the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Panama Limited on the Illinois Central Railroad, and the Super Chief on the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. Pullman cars were normally a dark Pullman green, although some were painted in the host railroad's colors. Cars carried individual names, but usually did not carry visible numbers. In the 1920s, the Pullman Company went through a series of restructuring steps, which in the end resulted in a parent company, Pullman Incorporated, controlling the Pullman Company, which owned and operated sleeping cars, and the Pullman Standard Car Manufacturing Company. Due to an antitrust verdict in 1947, a consortium of railroads bought the Pullman Company from Pullman Incorporated, and subsequently railroads owned and operated Pullman-made sleeping cars themselves. Pullman Standard continued manufacturing sleeping cars and other passenger and freight railroad cars until 1980. For nearly a year at the end of World War II, the United States government banned sleeping cars for runs of less than 450 miles (720 km). The development of the interstate highway system in the 1950s and the expansion of jet airline travel in the same decade negatively impacted train travel. Cultural impact of Pullman porters. One unanticipated consequence of the rise of Pullman cars in the U.S. in the 19th and early 20th centuries was their effect on civil rights and African American culture. Each Pullman car was staffed by a uniformed porter. The majority of Pullman porters were African Americans. While still a menial job in many respects, Pullman offered better pay and security than most jobs open to African Americans at the time, in addition to a chance for travel, and it was a well-regarded job in the African American community of the time. The Pullman attendants, regardless of their true name, were traditionally referred to as George by the travelers, the name of the company's founder, George Pullman. The Pullman Company was the largest employer of African Americans in the United States. Subsequently, railway porters fought for political recognition and were eventually unionized. Their union, Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, established 1925, became an important source of strength for the burgeoning civil rights movement in the early 20th century, notably under the leadership of Philip Randolph. Because they moved about the country, Pullman porters also became an important means of communication for news and cultural information of all kinds. The African American newspaper, the Chicago Defender, gained a national circulation in this way. Porters also used to resell phonograph records bought in the great metropolitan centers, greatly adding to the distribution of jazz and blues and the popularity of the artists. Open section accommodation. From the mid-19th to the mid-20th centuries, the most common and more economical type of sleeping car accommodation on North American trains was the open section. Open section accommodations consist of pairs of seats, one seat facing forward and the other backward, situated on either side of a center aisle. The seat pairs can be converted into the combination of an upper and a lower berth, each berth consisting of a bed screened from the aisle by a curtain. A famous example of open sections can be seen in the movie Some Like It Hot 1959. Private accommodations. In the mid to late 20th century, an increasing variety of private rooms was offered. Most of these rooms provided significantly more space than open section accommodations could offer. Open sections were increasingly phased out in the 1950s in favor of roomettes. Some of them, such as the rooms of the slumber coach cars manufactured by the Budd Company and first put into service in 1956, were triumphs of miniaturization. These allowed a single car to increase the number of sleepers over a conventional sleeping car of private rooms. Roomettes. A roomette, in the historically correct sense of the word, is a private room for a single passenger, containing a single seat, a folding bed, a toilet not in a private cubicle of its own, and a wash basin. When a traditional roomette is in night mode, bed blocks access to the toilet. Like open sections, roomettes are placed on both sides of the car, with a corridor down the center. Duplex roomettes, a Pullman-produced precursor to the slumber coach, are staggered vertically, with every second accommodation raised a few feet above the car's floor level, in order to make slightly more efficient use of the space. Single-passenger slumber coach accommodations are a particularly Spartan form of roomette. Slumber coaches also included a few two-passenger units. Compartments and double bedrooms. Compartments and double bedrooms are private rooms for two passengers with upper and lower berths, wash basins, and private toilets placed on one side of the car, with the corridor running down the other side, thus allowing the accommodation to be slightly over 2/3 the width of the car. Frequently, these accommodations have movable partitions allowing adjacent accommodations to be combined into a suite. Drawing rooms and larger accommodations. A drawing room is a relatively rare accommodation for 3 people traveling together, again with a wash basin and private toilet, again on one side of the car. Even rarer are larger rooms accommodating 4 or more. Generally, the needs of large parties were better served with multiple rooms, with or without the ability to combine them into a suite. Modern Amtrak accommodations. Amtrak's Superliner economy bedrooms, now called Superliner roomettes, although they are structurally closer to open sections, accommodate 2 passengers in facing seats that fold out into a lower berth, with an upper berth that folds down from above, a small closet, and no in-room wash basin or toilet, on both sides of both the upper and lower levels of the car. Effectively, they are open sections with walls, a door, and a built-in access ladder for the upper berth, which doubles as a nightstand for the lower berth passenger. Superliner deluxe bedrooms are essentially the same as historic compartments and double bedrooms, with the toilet cubicle doubling as a private shower cubicle. In addition, each Superliner sleeping car has 2 special lower-level accommodations, each taking up the full width of the car. The accessible bedroom at the restroom/shower end of the car below the deluxe bedrooms is a fully wheelchair-accessible accommodation for two, with a roll-in cubicle for the toilet and shower. The family bedroom at the economy bedroom end of the car accommodates two adults and up to three small children, without private toilet or shower facilities. When the Viewliner sleeping cars were built, the accommodations were patterned after the Superliner accommodations, except that the economy bedrooms or Viewliner roomettes include roomette-style washbasins and toilets, as well as windows for the upper berths. Night trains today. Despite its recent overall decline in popularity, the overnight train still offers an enjoyable means of transportation for many. Many overnight trains are scheduled to arrive at their destination cities in the morning. Although reduced in prevalence in recent decades in the Western world, sleeping cars retain a powerful ability to provide travel that is both reasonably comfortable and potentially time-saving, especially between points that are between 800 km 500 mi and 1600 km 1000 mi apart. Distances one can travel overnight, perhaps with dinner at the beginning of the journey and breakfast at the end. This offers efficiency in passing the time and distance by allowing travelers to do things that might be done in a hotel room during the same hours. The obvious advantage over day trains, even high-speed ones, is that the ride takes up less daytime. An interesting practice in sleeping car operation, one that is not currently employed in North America, is the use of set-out sleepers. Sleeping cars are picked up and or dropped off at intermediate cities along a train's route so that what would otherwise be partial night journeys can become in effect full night journeys, with passengers allowed to occupy their sleeping accommodations from mid-evening to at least the early morning. Common practice on such occasions is to close the passages between sleeper cars for the night to prevent accidental wrong destinations. Since 2009, China has been operating high-speed sleeper trains. Europe. In Europe, the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons-Lits, French for International Sleeping Car Company, first focused on sleeping cars, but later operated whole trains, including the Simplon Orient Express, Nord Express, Train Blue, Golden Arrow, and the Trans-Siberian on the Trans-Siberian Railway. Today it once again specializes in sleeping cars, along with onboard railroad catering. In modern Europe, a number of sleeping car services continue to operate, though they face strong competition from high-speed day trains and budget airlines, sometimes leading to the cancellation or consolidation of services. In some cases, trains are split and recombined in the dead of night, making it possible to offer several connections with a relatively small number of trains. Generally, the trains consist of sleeping cars with private compartments, couchette cars, and sometimes cars with normal seating. In Eastern Europe, night trains are still widely used. In Western Europe, they have been in decline for decades. However, in December 2020, the state railways of Germany, Austria, France, and Switzerland announced a €500 million investment in a network of cross-border night trains linking 13 major European cities, in the largest extension of Europe's night network in many years. An example of a more basic type of sleeping car is the European couchette car, which is divided into compartments for 4 or 6 people, with bench configuration seating during the day and privacyless double or triple level bunk beds at night. Austria. OBB modern nightjet services operate in Germany, Austria, Italy, Switzerland, and Belgium, and nightjet's partners will also take passengers to Slovakia, Croatia, Slovenia, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic. The services usually leave at around 20:00 hours and arrive at around 9:00 hours at the destination. Former Soviet Union countries. In the former Soviet Union, overnight train travel formed the main mode of long-distance travel. Distances between the capitals of Moscow and Kiev and many outlying cities being ideal for overnight trips that depart in late evening and arrive at their destinations in the morning. Sleeping cars with berths are the only reasonable solution for railway trips lasting several days, e.g., direct trains from Moscow to Siberian cities. Night trains are to this day a prime method of travel in key Soviet Union successor states like Russia and Ukraine, where a shift towards faster daytime trains with seating rather than sleeping arrangements is hampered by insufficient investments in the railway infrastructure restricting the speed and by a lack of train sets. With its limited geography, Belarus has managed to buck this post-Soviet trend and largely made the transition to daytime intercity trains based on government-funded purchases of rolling stock supplied by Stadler, which operates a train factory in Minsk. The national rail services in Ukraine and Russia continue to operate a large number of sleeper trains, to a large extent based on vintage life-prolonged rolling stock assembled in East Germany back in the 1980s. The use of the old cars helped keeping ticket prices on a quite reasonable level by Western standards, starting at below €10 for third-class tickets in Ukraine, with price levels higher in oil-rich Russia. Russia has renewed part of the fleet and introduced double-deck sleeper cars, but comfort levels suffer from a modest degree of innovation in the bogie suspension systems and the passenger compartment design. Around 2,000 couchette and sleeper rail cars are in active service on the Ukrainian network, but only one is equipped with private first-class compartments with en-suite bathrooms, and new cars purchased since 2015 in limited numbers come without showers. Croatia. Modern, air-conditioned sleeping cars and couchette cars are part of Croatian Railways rolling stock. Croatian sleeping coaches include single, double or four-bed compartments with washbasin and many additional hygienic accessories. Passengers also have catering services at their disposal and are given complimentary breakfast, depending on the type of ticket bought. Night train with sleeping carriages included operates on the route between the two largest Croatian towns, Zagreb and Split, and Croatian sleeping coaches are included on the Zagreb-Munich-Zagreb and Zagreb-Zurich-Zagreb Euro night lines. France. Another of the more substantial examples of current European sleeping car service is the Train Bleu, an all-sleeping car train. It leaves Paris from the Gare d'Austerlitz in mid-evening and arrives in Nice at about 8 in the morning, providing both first-class rooms and couchette accommodation. The train's principal popularity is with older travelers. It has not won the same degree of popularity with younger travelers. Recently, the upper-class coaches wagon-lit have been sold to foreign railroad companies, so that only couchette cars first and second class and seating coaches remain. The Train Bleu is part of the French night service network called Intercités de Nuit. Italy. In Italy, Ferrovie dello Stato operates an extensive network of trains with sleeping cars, especially between the main cities in northern Italy and the south, including Sicily using train ferry. Poland. Sleeping trains in Poland are run by PKP Intercity. Romania. Night train numbers have been reduced significantly, as the quality of the rail infrastructure is declining and repairs are insufficient, which leads to longer ride times between cities. A journey from the Bucharest main station to Arad 599 km usually lasts 11 hours 20 minutes when there are no delays. Most night trains in Romania cross the country, covering distances of 400 to 750 km, usually to end at certain international destinations or in large cities at opposite ends of the country. The overwhelming majority of night trains with sleeping coaches are owned and operated by CFR Calatori. Recently, private operators such as Astrarail Carpatica, the newly founded private operator of wagon-lit, has started offering sleeping train services, using own-made sleeping cars and Servtrans locomotives. CFR today prefers operating more couchettes than sleeping cars in its trains, a practice used in Italy and Austria, adopted by the CFR in the early 2010s, thus enabling it to increase the capacity on sleeping trains. The sleeping cars of the CFR in the 1990s consisted of Botzen and Gorlitz-made sleeping cars, standard in the Eastern Bloc. They were replaced by Gravita-made WLA-BME 7170 and Hansa-made WLA-BME 7131, bought second-hand from Deutsche Bahn. The most recent sleeping cars are the WLA-BME 7091 made by Astrarail, which is the same type used by Astrarail, although the liveries differ. Starting from 2014, 2 of the WLA-BME 7170 cars were refurbished, but no other examples have received the same treatment. Other examples that have been withdrawn since were second-hand examples of the 10MU and T2S types. Spain and Portugal. In Spain, Tren Hotel is a long-distance, high-quality overnight train service which uses Talgo tilting trains technology and sleeping cars developed by the Spanish rail network operator Renfe. It is operated by Renfe and CP, where it operates International Sud Express and Lusitania between Spain and Portugal, and by its subsidiary Ellipsos, a joint venture between Renfe and French SNCF with a 50% share each when operating in France, Switzerland, and Italy. The Estrella Star is a low-cost night train between Madrid and Barcelona served by berth carriages, with compartments for up to 6 people. United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, a network of trains with sleeping cars operates daily between London and Scotland Caledonian Sleeper, and between London and the West Country as far as Cornwall Night Riviera. Using rolling stock designed and formerly operated by British Rail, these services offer a choice of single or double occupancy bedrooms. These services operate all week, except Saturdays, and usually depart London Euston and Paddington in the evening, arriving at their destinations at approx 8:00. The West Country service uses British Rail MK3 sleeper coaches, whereas Caledonian Sleeper replaced their MK3 coaches with MK5 coaches. Other countries in Europe with sleeping car services: Norway, Sweden, Finland, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, Slovakia, North America, Canada. In Canada, all regularly scheduled sleeping car services are operated by Via Rail, using a mixture of relatively new cars and refurbished mid-century ones. The latter cars include both private rooms and open section accommodations. United States. In the United States, all regularly scheduled sleeping car services are operated by Amtrak. Amtrak offers sleeping cars on most of its overnight trains, using modern cars of the private room type exclusively. Today, Amtrak operates 2 main types of sleeping car: the bi-level superliner sleeping cars, built from the late 1970s to the mid-1990s, and the single-level viewliner sleeping cars, built in the mid-1990s. Superliners are used on most long-distance routes from Chicago westward, while viewliners are used on most routes east of Chicago due to tunnel clearance issues in and around New York City and Baltimore. In the most common superliner sleeping car configuration, the upper level is divided into 2 halves, one half containing bedrooms, formerly deluxe bedrooms for 1, 2, or 3 travelers, each bedroom containing an enclosed toilet and shower facility, and the other half containing roomettes, formerly economy bedrooms, or standard bedrooms for one or two travelers, plus a beverage area and a toilet. The lower level contains more roomettes, a family bedroom for as many as two adults and two children, and an accessible bedroom, formerly special bedroom, for a wheelchair-using traveler and a companion, plus toilets and a shower. The Viewliner cars contain an accessible bedroom, formerly special bedroom, for a wheelchair-using traveler and a companion, with an enclosed toilet and shower facility. Two bedrooms, formerly deluxe bedrooms for one, two, or three travelers, each bedroom containing an enclosed toilet and shower facility. Roomettes, formerly economy bedrooms, standard bedrooms, or compartments for one or two travelers, each roomette containing its own unenclosed toilet and washing facilities, and a shower. South America. Countries in South America having trains with sleeper cars. Argentina. Asia. China. China Railway operates an extensive network of conventional sleeper trains throughout the country, covering all provincial capitals and many major cities. The Chinese hard sleeping car in use today is very basic, consisting of 6 fixed bunk beds per compartment, which can be converted into seats in peak season, especially during Chinese New Year. The middle-level bunk bed will be folded and top-level bunk bed will still be sold as sleeper, while the lower bed will be occupied by 3 passengers. Chinese trains also offer soft or deluxe sleeping cars with 4 or 2 beds per room. China is the only country to operate high-speed sleeper trains. Sleeper services are operated using high-speed CR-HONE-E, CRH-2E, and CRH-5E trains outfitted with sleeping berths couchette. Services run between Beijing-Shanghai and Beijing-Guangzhou at speeds of up to 250 km/h 160 mph, one of the fastest sleeper trains in the world. A new variant of CRH-2E consists of double-deck capsules in lieu of sleeping berths. These trains have been dubbed moving hotels. India. A major portion of passenger cars in India are sleeper/couchette cars. With railways as one of the primary mode of passenger transport, sleeper cars vary from economical to first-class AC air-conditioned. Most Indian trains come in combinations of first-class A/C and non-A/C private sleeper cars with doors, and A/C and non-A/C 3-tier or 2-tier couchette arrangements. Japan. Japan once had many sleeping car trains, but most have been abolished because of the development of air travel, overnight bus services, and high-speed rail. As of May 2016, sleeper car trains of regular service in Japan are as follows: Sunrise Izumo, Tokyo Izumoshi; Sunrise Seto, Tokyo Takamatsu. Malaysia. Kereta Api Melayu, the Malaysian National Railway Company, offers sleeping car service on several of its long-distance trips. Sometimes the same trip can be made either during the day in a normal carriage or at night on a sleeper. Kuala Lumpur to Hat Yai train has sleeping cars since the journey takes 14 hours. Indonesia. The Indonesian State Railways once operated sleeper cars on the Bima between its launch in 1967 and 1995, when the last berth couchette cars were decommissioned. The successor to the Indonesian State Railways, PT Kereta Api Indonesia, operates some first-class train services that are officially called the luxury class, but are misinterpreted as sleeper trains by mainstream media. There are 2 generations of luxury class cars. Other countries in Asia: Vietnam, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, Thailand, Philippines. The Philippine National Railways operated a number of 7A 2014 class sleeper cars between 1999 and 2013. These units were first built for the Japanese National Railways in 1974 as 14 series passenger cars Ya, and were donated to the Philippines in 1999. They were meant to serve the Bicol Express in the South Main Line. The 7A 2000 class were a group of 5 single-level cars that were decommissioned after being involved in the fatal 2004 Padre Burgos derailment. On the other hand, the 14 class were a group of bilevel style couchette cars. After all services to the Bicol region were halted in 2013, the 14 class couchettes were stored in the Tutuban yard in Manila. Africa. Countries in Africa having trains with sleeper cars: Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Democratic Republic of Congo, Republic of the Congo, Ivory Coast/Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Oceania, Australia. Sleeping cars are used on Great Southern Rail's east-west transcontinental train, the Indian Pacific between Sydney and Perth, and the north-south transcontinental train began between Adelaide and Darwin. NSW train links overnight XPT services from Sydney to Melbourne, Casino and Brisbane. Queensland Rail's long-distance trains, the Spirit of Queensland and Spirit of the Outback.